The pest control incident that made galactic history. Trust me, you won't believe how humans solved a problem that had stumped the brightest minds in 3-star systems. This is the story of how a simple solution became legendary, and why the entire Galactic Council now keeps emergency contacts for something called a cat breeder. I still remember the day Marcus Okonkwo walked into Station Prime's command center with that insufferable grin on his face. You know the one, that specific human expression that simultaneously says, "I know exactly what I am doing, and also, you are about to be very concerned. My name is Vrel, Senior Administrator for the Galactic Trading Hub known as Station Prime, and I have been dealing with the worst crisis of my 17-year career. The Skrull, those horrible, chittering, wall-crawling nightmares that had infested every single corridor, ventilation shaft and cargo bay on the station. For those fortunate enough to never encounter a Skrix, imagine a creature roughly the size of your closed fist, with too many legs, too many teeth, and absolutely zero respect for personal space. They ate through cables, they contaminated food supplies, they nested in machinery, and worst of all, they reproduced at a rate that would make a mathematician weep. We had tried everything. Sonic repellents? The Skrix adapted in 3 days. Chemical fumigation? They developed immunity in a week. Electromagnetic barriers? They somehow learned to jump over them. The Zenthori brought in their famous pest hunters, those 6-limbed predators bred specifically for extermination work. The Skrix ate them. Yes, you heard that correctly. Ate them. The station was on the verge of complete evacuation. 14,000 sentient beings from 47 different species, all preparing to abandon the most strategically important trade hub in the Outer Rim, because of bugs. The humiliation was unbearable. The financial losses were catastrophic, and the Galactic Council was breathing down my neck like a Brivian swamp monster. Then Marcus showed up. "Heard you got a pest problem," he said, not even bothering to hide his amusement. I wanted to throw my data pad at his head. This human, this representative from the newest, least technologically advanced species in the Council, was standing in my office looking like he had just won a betting pool. His uniform was rumpled, his hair was doing that thing human hair does when they forget to maintain it properly, and he was drinking something from a container labeled coffee, which I had learned was their preferred liquid stimulant. "Marcus," I said, keeping my voice carefully neutral, despite the fact that my head tentacles were turning that unfortunate shade of purple that indicated extreme stress. "Unless you have discovered a miraculous solution in the past 3 hours since our last communication, I do not have time for whatever passes as human humor in this situation." He took a long sip of his coffee. "The audacity. What if I told you," he said slowly, clearly enjoying himself, "that humans solved this exact problem about 10,000 years ago?" I stared at him. My head tentacles drooped. "You are joking." "Nope." He pulled out his personal data device and started scrolling through something. "See, back on Earth we had these things called rodents. Mice, rats, that sort of thing. They got into our food stores, chewed through stuff, made nests everywhere." "Sound familiar?" "Disturbingly familiar," I admitted. "Right, so we tried poison, traps, all sorts of complicated solutions. But you know what actually worked?" He looked up at me with those strange human eyes that somehow managed to convey both sincerity and mischief simultaneously. "We domesticated the predators that naturally hunted them." "We tried predators," I said flatly. "The Skrix killed them." "Yeah, but did you try cats?" "Cats?" "Cats." I pulled up my translation matrix, certain there had been an error. The word appeared on my screen with an image attached. A small, furry quadruped with pointed ears, forward-facing eyes, and what appeared to be retractable claws. The description listed them as obligate carnivores, natural hunters, and surprisingly, domesticated companions. "This is a predator?" I asked doubtfully. The creature looked almost cute if I understood human aesthetics correctly. "Marcus, this animal appears to weigh perhaps 4 to 5 kilograms. The Skrix are vicious, fast and travel in swarms." His grin widened. "Trust me." Those 2 words. I should have known better. I should have remembered the incident with the plasma conduit repair that humans fixed with something called duct tape. I should have recalled the time Marcus convinced the Brivian delegation that spicy food was a sign of respect, resulting in 3 ambassadors requiring medical attention. I should have considered the species-wide reputation humans were developing for solving problems in the most unconventional ways possible. But I was desperate. The Council had given me 48 hours to solve the Scrix infestation, or they were permanently closing Station Prime. 48 hours until economic disaster, professional ruin, and the loss of my pension. Fine, I said. Bring me your cats. Marcus made a communication call right there in my office, speaking rapidly in that Earth language called English. I caught phrases like, yeah, the whole shipment, and no, I promise it's legal, and listen, just trust me on this one. That last phrase should have been another warning sign. Humans saying trust me rarely ended well for anyone involved. 6 hours later, a cargo transport docked at Base 7. Marcus met me there, practically bouncing with excitement, which was disturbing to witness in a being that supposedly represented a diplomatic envoy. How many of these cats did you bring? I asked, as we walked toward the bay. 300. I stopped walking. 300? Station this size? Yeah, 300 should do it. Maybe. Probably. We might need more. Marcus, I do not have the budget to feed 300 additional organisms. Oh, they'll feed themselves, he said cheerfully. That is kind of the point. The cargo bay doors opened, and I experienced my first encounter with a shipment of Earth felines. The noise was immediate and overwhelming. A chorus of sounds my translator unhelpfully labeled as meows, chirps and trills filled the air. The smell was distinctive, something between clean fur and a scent marker I did not recognize. Then I saw them. They came in an absurd variety of colors and patterns. Black, white, orange, gray, brown, striped, spotted, solid, mixed. Some had long fur, others short. Some had flat faces, others had pointed features. Their sizes ranged from small to surprisingly large, but every single one of them had the same look in their eyes. The look of a born killer. One of them, a large orange specimen, locked eyes with me and slowly blinked. Marcus made a noise that sounded pleased. Oh, that is a good sign, he said. Mr. Whiskers likes you. That creature is named Mr. Whiskers? He came with the name. I did not choose it. Mr. Whiskers continued to stare at me with an intensity that made me profoundly uncomfortable. Then he yawned, displaying an impressive set of fangs, and I began to reconsider my earlier skepticism. Right, Marcus said, clapping his hands together in that gesture humans used to indicate a beginning. Let us get these guys out of their carriers and spread throughout the station. Trust me. Well, in 48 hours your Scrix problem will be history. I looked at the 300 pairs of eyes now watching me with varying degrees of interest, hunger and predatory focus. I thought about my career, my reputation, and the fact that I was now depending on an army of small furry creatures named things like Mr. Whiskers to save the most important trading station in the sector. This had better work, I muttered. Marcus just smiled. Hold my beer. The first 24 hours after releasing the cats were, in a word, chaotic. In several words they were absolutely terrifying, mildly hilarious, and professionally mortifying. Marcus had insisted on what he called a strategic deployment plan. This involved opening carriers on different decks and letting the cats, as he put it, do their thing. I had expected some sort of organized patrol pattern, perhaps a coordinated search effort. What I got was 300 small furry missiles launching themselves into every corner of Station Prime with the single-minded determination of guided munitions. Within the first hour I received 47 complaints. The Thexian ambassador reported that a grey tabby named Professor Mittens had somehow gotten into his quarters and was sitting on his ceremonial prayer cushion, refusing to move. A cargo supervisor from Deck 9 claimed that a black cat called Shadow was following him everywhere, making unsettling chirping noises. The head chef at the Zenith restaurant sent an urgent message that 3 cats had taken up residence in his kitchen and were judging his cooking technique. This is a disaster, I told Marcus, who had set up a monitoring station in one of the observation rooms. No, this is working, he replied, gesturing to a screen displaying station readouts. Look at the environmental sensors. Scrick's biosigns are already down by 12%. In 1 hour? Cats are efficient. He pointed to another monitor showing security footage from Corridor 32B. I watched as a sleek Siamese named Lady Ashford crouched in perfect stillness beside a ventilation grate. After 3 seconds, she exploded into motion, her paw shooting into the opening with impossible speed. When she withdrew it, a Scrix was struggling in her grip. She bit down once, precisely, and the Scrix stopped moving. Then Lady Ashford looked directly at the security camera and dropped the dead Scrix at her feet like a trophy. Huh, I said. Yeah, Marcus agreed. They are really good at this. By hour 6, the complaints had evolved. Now beings were reporting that cats were leaving dead Scrix outside their doors. The Brevian delegation found 17 corpses arranged in a neat line outside their embassy suite. Marcus explained this was a gift, a sign of affection. The Brevians were not comforted by this information, but the numbers did not lie. Scrick's population readings were dropping rapidly. 22%, 35%, 51%. The cats had divided the station among themselves with no input from anyone. Certain corridors became territories. The hangar bays were claimed by a coalition of 6 large tabbies who worked together like a military unit. The residential sectors fell under the jurisdiction of a fluffy white Persian named Snowball, who, despite her delicate appearance, turned out to be the most ruthless hunter in the entire group. I started receiving different kinds of messages. The Zenthori trade minister, who had initially demanded the immediate removal of all cats, sent a formal request to have a cat permanently assigned to his office. Apparently a grey short-hair named Captain Fluffington had taken up residence on his desk and was providing what he called excellent company during long work sessions. The cafeteria workers reported that the cats had eliminated the Scrix infestation in the food storage areas within 3 hours. They also reported that the cats now expected regular meals as payment for services rendered. Marcus assured me this was normal cat behavior. By hour 12 I found myself in the central plaza, watching a ginger cat named Admiral Pounce engaged in combat with a Scrix swarm. There were at least 20 of the creatures, using their standard tactic of overwhelming numbers. Admiral Pounce sat calmly in the center of the swarm, occasionally lashing out with lightning-fast strikes. His accuracy was perfect. Each movement resulted in 1 dead Scrix. He was not even breathing hard. They are playing with them, I said to Marcus, who had joined me for observation. Yep, cats do that. It is practice, entertainment, and intimidation all in one. That seems cruel. Marcus shrugged. Nature is not kind, Vrel. The Scrix were an invasive species causing massive damage. The cats are just restoring balance. By hour 18, something remarkable happened. The Scrix population hit 73% reduction, and then the survivors did something I had never seen before. They started leaving. Security footage showed thousands of Scrix abandoning their nests and fleeing toward the airlocks and docking bays. They were evacuating. The cats had not just hunted them, they had terrified them so completely that the Scrix were choosing to risk the vacuum of space rather than remain on a station full of feline predators. Are they actually running away from cats? I asked, stunned. Marcus was recording everything on his data device, clearly delighted. The cats have established complete territorial dominance. The Scrix are not stupid. They recognize apex predators when they meet them. By hour 36, the Scrix biosigns had dropped to less than 5%. By hour 40, they were at 1%. By hour 47, just 1 hour before the council deadline, the station was completely clear. I stood in my office, staring at the environmental readouts that confirmed what I could barely believe. Station Prime was saved. My career was saved. Everything was saved by 300 domesticated predators from Earth. There was a soft meowing sound behind me. I turned to find Mr. Whiskers, sitting on my desk, next to a dead Scrix he had apparently placed there as a gift. Thank you, I said softly. I think. Mr. Whiskers blinked slowly at me again, then curled up on my desk and went to sleep, completely unbothered by the magnitude of what he and his companions had accomplished. Marcus arrived an hour later for the official inspection by the Galactic Council representatives. The Council sent 3 inspectors who spent 4 hours examining every corner of the station, scanning for any trace of Scrix infestation. They found nothing. The head inspector, a stern Thexian, named Qualified Observer 9th Rank Grom, approached me with what I recognized as grudging respect. Administrator Vrel, I must admit, when I heard your solution involved importing animals from Earth, I expected to file a closure order. Instead, I am filing a commendation. How did you accomplish this? I looked at Marcus, who was trying very hard not to smile. We brought cats. Cats? Cats. Grom looked at the datapad in his hands, then at me, then at Marcus. I am updating the Galactic Pest Control database immediately. This solution must be available to other stations. Within a week, the story spread throughout the Council. Station Prime became famous not for our trade volume or strategic location, but for being the first installation to successfully weaponize Earth felines against an invasive species. Requests started pouring in. The mining colony on Vexar Prime had a Scrix problem. Could we send cats? The agricultural platform orbiting Theta 7 was dealing with grain beetles. Would cats work? The research station near the Brevian Nebula had an infestation of something called void moths. Were cats effective against those? Marcus became an unofficial consultant, traveling to various installations with cargo holds full of cats, and that same insufferable grin. He made sure each cat found a good home, each station learned proper feline care protocols, and each deployment was documented for the growing database of human unconventional solutions. As for Station Prime, the cats stayed. They became part of the crew. Beings learned to accept offerings of dead pests. Children from visiting families delighted in petting the station defenders. The cats themselves seemed perfectly content with their new roles as both predators and companions. I kept Mr. Whiskers. He still sleeps on my desk during important meetings, occasionally opening one eye to judge whoever is speaking. The Council representatives find this intimidating, which works to my advantage during negotiations. And every time someone asks me how we solved the Great Scrix infestation, I tell them the same thing Marcus told me in the beginning. We brought cats. Sometimes the simplest solutions really are the best ones. Even if they come with fur attitudes and an expectation of regular meals. The humans had figured this out 10,000 years ago, and now the rest of the galaxy was learning the same lesson. Never underestimate what humans call a pet, especially when that pet has retractable claws, perfect hunting instincts, and absolutely no fear of anything. The Galactic Council now maintains an emergency database of Earth animal breeders. Station Prime has a permanent veterinary clinic. And somewhere in the galaxy, Marcus Okonkwo is probably convincing another desperate administrator to trust him and his cargo hold full of solutions. Hold my beer indeed.